What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Late Round Fantasy Football Show. It is week 9, and listen, we have a lot of stuff to talk about. We thought today was just going to be just a normal Friday, Halloween day. Things got a little bit scary with some Travis Haunter news. We'll talk all that and more next on Late Round Fantasy Football Show, sponsored by DraftKings. Welcome in. David Kitchen here, the COO, JJ's number one with JJ. JJ, I just want you to let people know how you are right now. It's 1 o'clock Eastern time. How was your Friday been? Just a stroll in the park?
So last week was your panic week,
Yeah.
right before the show. You were a little bit flustered to start the show. That's me this week. I mean, we had just for some behind the scenes, looks here. Rich Ryan, who does Becoming a Best Ball Bro with me, so you guys know him from that. Rich Ryan does a lot of audio stuff, and he's the one who edits all of the long form audio, except for this show that we do in the feed, which is Becoming a Best Ball Bro and Late Round Perspectives. So he's the one that does all the editing for those shows. And so yesterday I interviewed Scott Pianowski, who is on the show. It's about to, I guess it just launched, so it'll hit your podcast feeds in a second. But I talked to Scott Pianowski of Yahoo Sports, and he and I had a great conversation, including a 5 to 6 minute long conversation about Travis Hunter. And lo and behold, after that conversation happened and we recorded it, he was put on the injury report. But there were some reports yesterday that was like, it seemed to happen after Wednesday, and then he was limited on Thursday. So I'm like, okay, maybe this isn't that serious. And then this morning happens, and Travis Hunter gets placed on IR, which we'll get to in a second. And I didn't even think about it, but Rich messaged me, and he goes, hey, do you want to remove the Travis Hunter portion of Late Round Perspectives? And I'm like, yeah, we should probably do that. So if there's a little bit of jumpiness or whatever, I mean, Rich is a great editor, so I'm sure it'll sound really great. But if there's some like weird Travis Hunter, removal stuff going on with Late Round Perspectives in the audio, that's why. But yeah, I mean, it's just been a wild day. Not only that, but it's the end of the month, and at the end of every month, beginning of the next month, I post my dynasty rankings updates, and I was doing that on Patreon, and I was literally about to post, and then the Travis Hunter news dropped, which does impact his dynasty ranking. It's not going to be like dramatic because obviously he's a rookie and there's a long career ahead, hopefully. But, that changed. Parker Washington got a little bit of a bump, in those rankings. So it's just been an absolute mess this morning for me. And then all the while it's Halloween, and my son's daycare, they have a parade. They decide to make it at 3 p.m., which is way too early. Like you're a daycare, you're a preschool.
Yeah. Your service is to help working parents.
That's right. That's the entire point. Like, that's why it's a great place, and we love it to death. And our daughter went there. We're going to be there for like 10 years in total. We love it. We love it to death. But 3 p.m. So now we got to take Avery out of school like a half hour early, pick her up from school, go. And I got to do that basically right after this show. So it's a complete madness of a day. I can't wait to just walk around trick-or-treating tonight, because it's going to be way more relaxing than what's gone on today.
So you have your outfit?
Yeah, I'm going to be, we're Moana characters. I'm going to be Hey Hey. That's why I'm wearing this color shirt, because I'll be wearing this shirt with the Hey Hey costume.
Oh man. This is like the first year that we have not really been like that into like the dressing up. So it was like last second costumes. Yeah. Kids are separated this time, as they grow up. Sometimes like when they're little, they all can be in one. Now they've got their all separate friend groups. So it's like, it's a big logistics nightmare, but we don't have time to talk about that. We do want to thank our sponsor, DraftKings, for sponsoring. So listen, DraftKings has been like, they've been good to us.
Yes.
And this is probably the last sponsorship for at least a while. We hope that we'll come back with some stuff later. But
yeah, nothing but good things to say about DraftKings.
Yeah, and we've enjoyed drafting. They help sponsor the best ball portion, and big sponsor. So I know that the ads sometimes became a little bit repetitive, some might say. However, it helped. It helps the show, and it helps you. So it's a big circle of life, basically.
That's right.
Also, just want to give a shout out to the Discord. Last night during the game was fun, and then today during the Travis Hunter news, it's
chaos.
It's chaos. It's chaos, and you can vent. You've got just lots of people expressing emotions and in solidarity. So if you want to check out that, lateround.com, and then click the Patreon button there. With that being said, JJ, we've got Thursday night football to talk about. We got some news to talk about, including probably some of the biggest news we've had in the past couple weeks. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Today's fantasy news.
All right, I'm gonna just pause the Hunter news just for 1 second, and let's get your Thursday night football reaction. Lamar's back. Mark Andrews catches the first 2 touchdowns. Just an extension of tight ends week. You got Charlie Collar. They caught a touchdown. You got Greg Dulcich, who had like 5 catches for 50-something yards. The corpse of Greg Dulcich comes back. So what are your thoughts on that game last night?
My thoughts are, let's cool it with the Tua hate. Okay. I think that what we do as fans oftentimes is that we sort of embed like salary and cost when we're evaluating players. We say this player is a bust because of where he was drafted, as opposed to this player is good or bad, like just in general. I don't think Tua is a good quarterback, like in terms of being a top half one in the league right now. But it was wild in the Discord last night, just seeing people saying how bad, like just how horrific he is. I mean, we have to give this some context. They're playing a much improved, like Baltimore's defense has been playing better. They have a poor offensive line. They obviously lost Tyreek Hill, so he's throwing to Jalen Waddle, who's obviously good. Nick Westbrook-Akine, who I know you're a Titans fan, but let's be real. And then Malik Washington, who's just been really not good since getting more work, in that offense. Obviously Devon Achane out of the backfield. It's just it's one of those things where, like, if you're gonna hate on Tua, like, where were you last week? Whenever he had a decent game against Atlanta. Like, I'm not saying this is not me like defending Tua from the standpoint of like I'm a truther and I think that he's awesome. It's one of those examples of like trying to be rational as a football fan and me trying to like push that rationality and push the level-headedness, because I think it's just really important as you play fantasy football. But regardless, I think Tua is not an answer right now with what they have and what they need. But I want to cool it a little bit with the Tua hate. I thought Lamar looked a little bit rusty to start the game, but was fine, mostly fine. Obviously, had some variance on his side with the way that Baltimore scored touchdowns. They were all through the air. And then, I was happy with the process that led me to Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely both on the sleeper show this week. I had Baltimore's defense also in the sleeper show.
There you go.
The process of Miami being sort of like a tight end funnel, third and adjusted target share allowed to the position. They obviously used their tight ends a lot last week. Little disappointing outing for Zay Flowers to a degree, but there wasn't that much passing. That's the fear with Flowers, though, is that if the defense plays okay, that offense is not going to be very pass heavy. And if the offense isn't very pass heavy, then Flowers is just going to be like that, unfortunately, that like 6 for 70 kind of player, because he's not that much of he's not a huge touchdown getter. He's just not using the red zone very often. So he's kind of doing what after week 1, he had that monster week 1 game. He's kind of been doing what I thought he would do this year. And, he's seeing a higher target share than what we projected. I will say I'm still more bullish than not on Zay, because I had Zay as a buy a couple weeks ago. I got some exposure to him through that as well. But those are my overwhelming thoughts on what we saw. I thought it was a pretty, didn't we kind of expect that game to go the way that it did? Like, it was a pretty projectable game.
Yeah, Pete said the refs hosed the fence. That one big play
it was awful. Ollie Gordon trip.
The tripping call was terrible. I mean, and
really
that was easily a 4 or 5 point swing there.
Yeah, Pete is also saying that JJ dressed up as JJ for Halloween. Actually, I made this joke in the Discord, so I'm going to say it right now. I dressed up as Travion Henderson's workload on Sunday, which is nothing. Just a joke, Had to throw that out there. Good. I'm trying to reverse jinx at all costs with Travion Henderson this week.
Deb K says, Kitchen, I like your costume. It's actually handsome Vandy fan. That's
Oh, there we go.
yeah, that's my costume. Anchor down. And Gonzalo, you want to address this? He says, now you can be friends with Hayden and Josh again.
Yeah, I mean, to be clear, everyone, we've always been friends with Hayden and Josh, but yeah, now we can hopefully, hit them up, maybe do a show.
Yeah, maybe do a show. Okay, let's get back on to the news. Hunter, more like Haunter. You've got this news that happened. We thought it was like nothing burger, a knee issue yesterday at practice.
Yeah, like maybe something, but definitely not this. Yeah,
definitely not this. This was big. Right after the bye week, we thought he was going to go off. We've mentioned him multiple times on the show for the past 2 weeks, as far as like this is his time, and then this.
Yeah, my reaction to this is that this hurts like Amari and Hampton. Does this not feel like when Amari and Hampton went down, where we're getting so excited? Hampton was going to be a top 10 running back before that injury. I mean, he was getting so much work. The offense was working for him. This feels a little bit like the Amari and Hampton thing, where we were excited. It was very clear where things were trending for Travis Hunter. And it's just not going to happen. I mean, now Liam Cohen is, if you read between the lines, it sounds like Travis Hunter might not even be back this season. Like we just don't know at this moment as we're recording this.
Non-contact injury at practice, not good.
Right. So at the very earliest, it's week 13 that he would be back. But it's just sad. I think Parker Washington is the guy that you would want. He's going to step up. He ran a lot of routes last time we saw. Jacksonville, he'll play some slot, which is, a piece of that offense that is pretty attractive. We saw that with Liam Cohen last year too. And I think Washington's a decent player. If you go back and you read, my model, my ZAP model is different now, the prospect model. But if you go back and you read sort of what I was said about Parker Washington coming out, I mean, he had a pretty intriguing prospect score. He was an early declare, decent production, not great production, but decent enough. And he's produced at times throughout his career. Like, I don't think he's a bad player. Brian Thomas, obviously, you have more stability with him, hopefully, without, Travis Hunter in the mix. And then if De'Ami Brown is healthy, he would work too. And you have sort of like, you have an X in Brian Thomas, you have the slot in Parker Washington, you have someone who can stretch the field in De'Ami Brown. You have three, like, hypothetically, decent wide receivers that can be cohesive and work together. But the thing with Travis Hunter he can play anywhere, and he was going to be featured. And so that allowed for way more flexibility on offense than what they have now. So Parker Washington's the ad. It's really sad with his Travis Hunter stuff, just from like, not just from a fantasy perspective, just from like a football fan perspective. Like, talk about the second overall pick in the draft and a guy who can play both ways. And we're starting to see him really thrive on one side of the field. And now we're just not going to be able to see that come to fruition, at least in the short term.
Yeah. And BTJ banged up. Britton Strain, just like, he was doing good, and then he got hurt. Like, his offense is struggling. All right. Tyrone Tracy.
Yeah.
That's
it.
That's the headline. I think you put that in here.
Well, I just want to make sure that we talked about Tyrone Tracy because Cam Scadaboo's injury is like the biggest injury.
So you didn't mean to capitalize the R here? I thought you were.
No, I wasn't doing anything.
Like T-Racy.
I was just throwing that in there. I didn't even see any of the other headlines. I just threw that in there to make sure that we talk about him.
Okay.
So I'm just going to put RB2. I think he's firmly in that area rest of season. I talked about him on the 15 transaction show. I do want to throw out there though, and I talked with Scott Pianowski about Tyrone Tracy at length because we went running back by running back on the show where I did a this or that with Tyrone Tracy versus a bunch of running backs. The one thing I'll say is that Cam Scadaboo's injury could linger into 2026, and to keep that in mind as you're looking at keepers and looking at dynasty and stuff like that. This is an injury that players have not necessarily come back from. I mean, we don't have a big sample. I talked to Jeff Mueller about this on Twitter. I just asked him, and the response was basically like, this is like Chris Godwin-esque a little bit. Obviously, Scadaboo is definitely younger than although he was an older prospect. He's definitely younger than Godwin, doesn't have the same kind of wear and tear that Godwin does necessarily. And I running back might be a little bit different than wide receiver with how things heal, but just be like aware that the Scadaboo injury could be a longer recovery than what's being reported. Like, I think Rap Sheet said something along the lines of it being like a pretty clear, like a clean situation of like, just coming. Did something happen?
Yeah.
What happened?
Breaking news.
What is it?
I'm gonna put it
Is it
go right there.
Ramondre's out.
Ramondre confirmed out this week.
Yeah. I mean, you reacted like Ramondre was out for the year or something.
No.
I expected Hey, yesterday's rankings update,
Listen,
I had him out.
Travion Henderson owners will take anything.
I'm not. We'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't think that it's like an easy recovery for Cam Scadaboo.
Okay. Yeah. One thing you forget, JJ, is that Cam's got that. He's got that dog in him.
He does. That's the one thing that, I mean, he might be back. Honestly, he might be back next week, guys.
Just tape it up. Just tape it up. All right. Knight in shining armor. The running back situation for Arizona has been very fluid this season.
Yeah.
And now we've got Bam Knight, Zonovan Knight, whatever you want to call him. But he's rising up the ranks for this week.
And I'm gonna say that I think that people look. It might end up being the Bam Knight show, but I think people have too much confidence in Bam Knight. When I first released my rankings this week, I had Bam as like a low end RB2. I think at like RB22 or something like that, something along those lines. And I got a lot of responses from people that are like, "Why is Bam not ranked higher? Like, he's got a great matchup." Yes, and I said this on the Sleeper Show. If Knight sees the exact same backfield share that he saw the last time we saw Arizona, he'll probably be a strong RB2. But my fear is Amari DiMercado, we don't have the official word on him. If he's back, I think he could play a pass catching role. Michael Carter, even though he was released, it was just roster gymnastics with what they were doing there. But Michael Carter could get some work in this backfield. If this hits a negative game script, I don't think Bam Knight is going to be on the field. And they're playing Dallas. Like, that's a very possible reality here. So I'm cautiously optimistic. Like, I'm using Bam Knight in a couple leagues, but I don't want to be like too over the top thinking that he's going to be a bell cow, because I don't necessarily think that's going to happen. When, Amari DiMercado, we can't forget he was out the last time we saw Arizona, and he has been a player despite that gaffe that he had, fumbling the ball at the goal line. He's been a player that over the last X number of years or X number of games, he's been a pass catching back and played that role pretty frequently for Arizona. And so if he's back, we could see even more of a rotation. So I want to be level-headed with Bam Knight. I still think that he can be like a low-end RB2. I think that you could find him in your lineup during the bye weeks and stuff like that, but just be realistic about expectations.
Are you defending Kyler too? I think I saw you defending Kyler the other day in chat.
I just think a lot of players in general, like quarterbacks in general.
You just don't like the hate. You don't like the hate.
I don't like the hate because people don't understand how bad it can actually be, And like some of these players, like a Kyler or like a Tua, they can still give you a decent game, every other game or here and there. There are some quarterbacks out there that are just not it at all. I mean, we saw that with like Jake Browning when he stepped in. So these guys aren't backups. They're still starters in the league. They're just not good starters.
Okay. Manon, that guy, because we might have Swift. If Swift gets ruled out, can I make the shocked face?
Yeah, I think Swift being ruled out would be pretty surprising.
Yeah.
Not like totally surprising, because he did have, I think this is the first time he had multiple did not practices in a row this year, but he hasn't really practiced that much this year. It's sort of like, remember last year with Tony Pollard? Tony Pollard would just not practice all week and then he'd play.
Yeah.
That's sort of what DeAndre Swift is this year to me.
That was 2 years ago, right?
No, it was last year. It was last year.
Okay.
Because it was when Tajay Spears was out, and then Spears came back down the stretch and was pretty usable. But DeAndre Swift, to me, reminds me a lot of what was going on with Tony. Honestly, like comparable fantasy assets, the two of them, from last year Pollard to this year Swift. But yeah, if Swift is out, then the Monangai, even though I think Monangai is a pretty average running back, pretty mid, if you will, that's what the kids say. I might have called him another name when they
That's
drafted
a
him as well.
compliment compared to what you called him after the 7th round pick.
Might have said that he was the A word.
Yeah.
We got to keep this clean.
Yeah.
Okay, Kitchen.
Yeah,
Got to keep it clean. Like, he's just a fine prospect. You guys can read the prospect guide. Like, he's just a guy to me. Like, I don't think that he's special or like, I'm sure he's a great human. I'm just saying about his football skills. Yeah, there you go. Manon, just a guy.
There you go.
But a great matchup for him. If Swift is out, Manon guy should be in your lineup.
Yeah, speaking of good matchups, you would think this Bears passing attack would be a good matchup as well, but everyone is hurt. Like, you had Luther Burden, who had a concussion. He was out yesterday. The other 3 came back to practice and were limited.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really have a reaction to the 3 Bears wide receivers. I'd say hopefully Caleb is good because he's been really inconsistent this year. But yeah, I mean, Roma Dunze's been dealing with his heel injury. DJ Moore is just not the DJ Moore that we've grown to love. Like, he's just not that player right now.
Would you say that's not my DJ?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure, Kitchen. Yeah. But like, I'm not really like, this actually sets up as a game that could be good for DJ Moore. But regardless, I think it just all comes down to Caleb Williams and whether or not he plays well or not, whether or not he plays well. I didn't think last week he definitely had some issues, but Ben Johnson even said like there were some things that he liked about what Caleb did last week. I think Baltimore's defense just playing better, and like we can't just have like be anchored to priors. Baltimore's defense has done this before too, where they were bad and then they fix things. The Steelers should take note on how to do that. But I still think this game has an opportunity to be pretty high scoring.
Seeing if DJ Moore had any rushing props out there, because if Swift is out,
true, yeah,
he would probably get some carries. None listed. Books are too smart. All right, pick a Panthers quarterback this week, JJ. They're both kind of hurt. They're both at practice, though.
It sounds like Bryce Young is going to start. But like literally right before we started doing this, I saw
Is that good?
The news come through. Yeah, I mean, Andy Dalton looked pretty bad last week. The only good part with Andy Dalton, and I said this on I think Living the Stream this week, where I kind of want to do a study, and if someone wants to do it, feel free, and I'll shout it out. But I want to do a study. Do you know where I'm going with this?
No, it's just like if someone wants to do my homework for me, so I can see the answers.
I mean, if someone wants to dig into it because it's fun, then feel free to dig. Because I'm not gonna be able to do it until over the off season. But I'm really curious when like a veteran quarterback steps in as a backup, if they hyper target an alpha wide receiver, because anecdotally it feels like that happens. Jamar Chase has a freaking 46% target share with Joe Flacco, over 50% in back-to-back games. We'll get to that in a second. You have Tedero McMillan last week, 43.5% target share with Andy Dalton. It just feels like it's totally vibes based, but I'm curious if that's the case. But I think Bryce Young is going to start. I don't really have a preference between. I think Bryce Young is better than Andy Dalton. Yes, like I genuinely do.
Okay, another old, maybe an unk. Some would say, what the Flacco. It seems like Joe Flacco, he might be in jeopardy of missing this week. I
think Unk is going to play, but I missed Lamar last week on this show. I thought he was going to play, and I missed AJ Brown. I thought AJ Brown was going to play. So I could very well be wrong, but I think Unk is going to play in this game, and if he does, then obviously you're firing up your Bengals because it's a beatable defense.
Okay, we are going to just pull an audible here because I can't wait any longer. I need to know what you have to say about Ramondre being out this week.
All right. I think that TreVeyon Henderson is going to carry the ball 3 times for 13 yards in this game against Atlanta. No, I mean, look, I went through this on the late round fantasy football Patreon live stream that I do on Tuesdays. You were out this week.
Yeah.
But I went through and I looked at TreVeyon Henderson's rushing charts, because Next Gen Stats shows you where they ran and how long it went for, all that kind of stuff. They're cool charts. Anyone can access them. Last week, if you compare last week's to other weeks from TreVeyon Henderson, last week he had so many toss plays, so many runs to the outside, and lo and behold, against one of the best rush defenses in football, he goes 10 for 75 And it wasn't like he had a 60-yard run in there. I mean, he was getting chunk plays. And that's what you need to do with TreVeyon Henderson. Now, the problem is that Josh McDaniels and the Patriots don't necessarily like running their running backs that way, which is why they've preferred Ramondre Stevenson more this year, despite the fact that Ramondre Stevenson has not been good this year. Ramondre Stevenson has had 2 good games, one against Miami, one against Tennessee, which most running backs have good games against, right? And so my thing is, hopefully they can, now that TreVeyon Henderson is the RB1 on the depth chart, hopefully they can sort of make this scheme and run scheme, cater it more towards TreVeyon Henderson. Like if you watch that game this weekend and you just see TreVeyon Henderson running up the gut over and over again, we're cooked. Like it's over, right? But if you see them trying to get him in space, I've been saying this all year, get him to the outside, throw him the freaking ball. You know, he's not seeing targets the last couple of games. That's where TreVeyon Henderson can thrive. This is a turning point where, of course, if he has a good game, this could be it, right? Yeah. This could be what we were hoping for. But if he does not have a good game because they're using him the same way that they've been using Ramondre Stevenson, it's probably not going to happen for TreVeyon this year. The other point that I want to make is I think they still get other running backs involved this weekend. This is not, people will get excited the way they got excited about Rico Dowdle when Chuba went down, where they're like, oh, Rico's going to get a lot of work. Most people, Rico's going to get a lot of work, you know, and it was exciting because he was going to see a lot of work in that backfield. I don't think that TreVeyon Henderson's backfield share is going to look anything like what we saw from like Rico Dowdle when he stepped in for Chuba Hubbard, as just an example.
Who else do they have? Like Terrell Jennings?
Terrell Jennings, they signed with Dearness Johnson. My mind has been on QJ. They have other running backs that they can throw out there. And we can sit here all day and be like, why would they do that? Well, TreVeyon Henderson is not that much of an in between the tackles runner. Not right now. Like he hasn't proven that. And so if they want to use Jennings a little bit more there, I'm not going to be that surprised. Like I think we have to be realistic.
Yeah. Hopefully this will be the, like you said, the turning point, whatever it is, the catalyst to just catapult him into relevancy, because what if he becomes a league winner? And
I mean, look, if
you were stressing out for 8 weeks for nothing.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's the worst call of my season is TreVeyon Henderson. Like not even close.
You weren't the only one. He was being steamed heavily because
here's the thing. Yeah. I don't really care about what other people are doing. I care deeply about what I'm doing. And I understand that other people were steaming him as well. And I can definitely fall back on that and be like, I wasn't alone. And that's comforting. But at the same time, it was a really, really bad advice so far. And so, yes, if he turns it around, if that happens this weekend, I'm just not going to, I mean, from what we've seen from TreVeyon and the Patriots, I just don't think that we should have that expectation. Just understand it's part of his range of outcomes.
Okay. What about Brashard Smith's season? I mean, lots of guys could be getting
lots of late round guys getting some ops, you know,
could be getting some opportunities for sure.
I think that we're going to see a lot of Kareem Hunt. But yeah, I mean, I said this on the mailbag episode, you know, these are the situations where you want to roster these players through their opportunity, just to see, even if they don't see like massive backfield shares and massive workloads, if they show us something that could lead to more work down the stretch. You know, same thing with TreVeyon Henderson. Like TreVeyon Henderson is way more obvious because he's the RB1 on the depth chart, but with Brashard Smith, even if he sees like a 30% backfield share, like if he sees a 7 or 8% target share, what if he just is really good on those looks and Kareem Hunt's terrible on those looks, you know? So he's definitely something that you should have rostered right now. You don't have to play him necessarily, although I am, because I'm in deeper leagues and stuff. But I am excited for him to get some opportunity because I think he's a really good player.
Yeah. I'm excited for this game. That might be
might be a quad box game.
Yeah, for what's to come.
Better be a quad box game. My gosh.
All right. Looks like Woody Marks is okay. He got added late to the injury report yesterday, and then Nico is back. So good for the Texans.
Yeah, thank goodness. You know, matchup's not great, although Surtain's out, so that'll help things for that offense. But yeah, I mean, you know, I think we know what Woody Marks kind of is, where, you know, you'll see like a 50, maybe 60% running back rush share in a given week, and then he's going to be the one that they try to get in space as a receiver. Like, his backfield share, if you guys want to think about like what I had from a vision perspective with like Travion Henderson, it's this. It's this idea that he's a 50 to 60% running back rush share player and a 10% plus target share player, but then there's room to grow from that. And historically players with that kind of backfield share do quite well, and the difference between Marks and Henderson is that as prospects, Henderson looked better. Offensive environment, New England's is better than Houston's. But yeah, I mean, it's coming together for Woody Marks. I think he can be a solid, like high end 3, low end 2, hope maybe even mid range 2, RB2 rest of season for fantasy purposes.
Today's data.
All right, let's get to today's data where you've got another little nerdy table talking about target share since 2011.
Yeah. I thought this was kind of interesting. So I've been talking about how, and I said this on the mailbag, like Jamar Chase's run over the last couple of weeks has been insane because he's seen 50% target shares, better than 50% target share in back-to-back games. So I went back and I looked at all wide receivers. There's been 2 tight ends where this happened, but I looked at all wide receivers since 2011 who had greater than a 50% target share in a game. And there were 41 of them if you count this year. If you don't count this year, there's been 5 of them this year, which means there's been 37 of them, which means per season, Kitchen, we see 2.6 of these 50% greater than 50% target share games from wide receivers per season. This year, halfway through the year, we've had 5. We've had 5 of them. We had Drake London against Buffalo. Remember when he went off against them when Darnell Mooney was?
Oh, I remember. I mean, one can hope that repeats itself.
Yeah, exactly. And then he got hurt. Jamar Chase against Pittsburgh. We remember that one. Jackson Smith and Jigba has 2. He had one, I believe that was week 1, and then he had one against Jacksonville. And then Jamar Chase again against the Jets. So granted, 2 of the 5 instances, 2 players, there's only 3 wide receivers that are part of these 5, right? But the fact that it's happened so frequently is pretty interesting. It just goes to show how good of a season JSN's having and how important Jamar Chase is to that Cincinnati offense, just given how hyper targeted he's been with Joe Flacco. And for the record, the 2 tight end games where they've seen a greater than 50% target share, Delaney Walker had one and George Kittle had the other one.
Just looking at some of these names, Pierre Garçon, I haven't seen that name in forever.
Yeah. I mean, look, they're all elite names. I mean, Sammy Watkins had the highest, but a lot of that too was like
Rashard Matthews.
They only threw the ball. Like I think they only threw the ball. Buffalo did that week like 12 times. It was just one of those games where he just saw a lot of looks because of that. But Neighbors is on here. AJ Brown has a couple.
Kelvin Benjamin.
That
was probably his one good game that he had.
After stud. Yeah.
Dez, RIP, Demaryius Thomas. Yeah, that's a good list.
It's fun to look at that kind of stuff. I think giving proper historical perspective is always important whenever you see a guy who's just like running so hot, because then you can like not only realize that it's probably going to regress a little bit, but also just appreciate the awesomeness that is, JSN, Jamar Chase, and Drake London.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw when Brandon Marshall was talking to Pete Overzets.
Yeah. I watched some of that. Yeah.
Yeah. He was talking just about like getting him the ball and, just on one of these weeks where he just caught a ton of I think he set the record that week.
He has Brandon Marshall since 2011 has the highest target share of any wide receiver by like a healthy margin in a season. It was like he had like a 40% target share one year.
So it was just fun listening to him talk about how he was unguardable, basically. Yeah. You know how receivers are.
Yeah, of course.
What's it Denny says about their tweets?
Oh yeah.
Carry a knife.
Yeah.
What is it?
I don't remember the exact phrase, but yes,
right.
they're always poetic and yeah.
Someone in the chat will have it for us.
The late round main event.
All right, let's look at players that you like more than consensus this week, starting with Danny Dimes. You have him at QB4 compared to QB7.
Yeah, there's a lot of good quarterback options this week, so I understand why there's a potential gap here, because I even have him like in a tier with, Drake May and Justin Herbert and even Dak. Like, I think they're all like good plays. So I don't think this is like that dramatic of a difference, even though the ranking shows that it's different. I just like Dimes from a on paper standpoint, although I've been on record saying that I wouldn't be shocked if the Steelers just like win this game because it'd be the most football NFL Mike Tomlin thing of all time. But Pittsburgh's dead last right now in adjusted quarterback passing yards allowed. So they allow 68 more quarterback passing yards per game than those quarterback season-long averages, which is crazy. I mean, it's horrible. They're the second best matchup by adjusted fantasy points allowed, which is no surprise that there's some correlation there. Indianapolis is about a 27-point implied team total. And over his last three, Dimes has scored 22.5, 22.2, and 23.2 standard fantasy points. So I think he's a pretty good play this week on paper, but anything goes. This is the way the NFL works.
And you've got Kareem Hunt as your running back 18 compared to running back 22.
I did. Can you make that a little bit wider there? The screen? It shrunk for some reason. There you go. Kareem Hunt, RB18 versus RB22. Like I said, I'm hoping for Brashard Smith to get some opportunity, but I think it's probably going to be Kareem Hunt's backfield. Last year without Isaiah Pacheco, it was like week 3 to 13 or something like that, or 2 to 13. Kareem Hunt had an 84% running back rush share per game, and he was used as a receiver as well. But I don't know if those receiving looks are going to be there quite the same with Brashard Smith in the mix. But there's a lot of scoring potential against Buffalo this week. The Bills are allowing the 6th most adjusted fantasy points to running backs. So I think Kareem Hunt is a decently solid RB2.
All right, you've got Debo, the cover boy at wide receiver 18 this week. No Terry McLaurin.
It's just strange to me, maybe rankers just haven't really adjusted yet for the fact that I don't know if rankers have adjusted for the fact that Terry McLaurin is out, right? But he was out pretty early this week. So and I was only grabbing from people who had updated their rankings. So, I mean, I guess people think that Deebo Samuel's the wide receiver 26. I don't think I think that's too low when you realize that in 4 games with Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel has a 22.8% target share per game rate and 12.3 PPR points per game. Okay. Nothing special at all. Like Deebo with Terry McLaurin has been, wide receiver 3 type player, basically where we drafted him, right? 3 games without McLaurin, 31% target share per game rate, 16.4 PPR points per game. You get Jaden Daniels back. Yes, it's a tougher matchup, but I do think that Deebo just on volume alone can get by and be a top 20 wide receiver this week.
Okay, and then you got Theo Johnson, and I saw him. I think we had him last week in the look ahead waiver wire.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've had Theo Johnson. I've been talking about up Theo Johnson for like months now. He's one of those players where I understand why he's not rostered in more leagues, because chances are he's more of a high end tight end 2 and not a low end tight end 1. But I mean, his peripherals have been good. 20% target share since Malik Neighbors' injury, back-to-back games with a 97% route participation rate. Just to give you guys some context, like for tight ends, ideally, they'd be over like the 80% mark. A lot of tight ends are in the 60 to 80% route share mark. Cardio Cade will get in the 95% range. But then, Trey McBride will too and stuff. But having 97% route shares in back-to-back weeks, Daniel Bellinger's banged up. Like, there's a lot of reason to think that this can stick, that he will just be on the field a lot. It's a neutral matchup for Theo from the standpoint of like how many adjusted fantasy points they're allowing and adjusted tight end target share they're giving up. But I think Theo Johnson can be a solid high end tight end 2, low end tight end 1 rest of season. Like, he should be rostered in more leagues than he's rostered in right now.
Okay, I'm excited about these bold predictions because they are going to help me personally, and that's what we're here for. Starting with Kamani Vidal being a top 5 running back this week.
Yeah, I'll go top 5, be a little bold, because I think, right now I have him ranked 11th, which, going up to top 5 is different. Yeah. To be fair, I did have Derrick Henry ranked ahead of him, and Henry didn't catch a pass and didn't score a touchdown. And so his game
almost did. He was at the 1 yard line.
Yeah, he didn't catch a pass last night, did he? I can't remember. Yeah. So, I mean, he had a good game on the ground. It's just that he didn't have, a big game because he didn't find the end zone. So we could leapfrog that. So maybe it's not as bold. But regardless, Tennessee, 3rd best matchup by adjusted points allowed to running backs. The Chargers, a 26.5 point implied team total. Last week, Kamani Vidal, and I'm really mad. I should have shouted out Jarrett Patterson as like a deep sleeper on this week's sleeper show. It didn't cross my mind enough to do it, but I should have. So I'm going to, I won't count it, but I'm going to add him as a deep sleeper. But Kamani Vidal last week had 23 carries on only like a sub 70% running back rush share because they had such a good game script and they were just cooking on the ground against Minnesota that they could just do it over and over again. And so they ran a lot. They ran a lot of plays and it helped Kamani Vidal. So like his backfield share wasn't amazing, but his overall workload was still amazing. I think you can easily see 20 plus touches in this game. Hassan Haskins is banged up. I think Vidal is a really good play, and it makes me sad because Marion Hampton could be absolutely cooking right now if he never got hurt.
I know that. I mean, that really is the thing. If Kamani Vidal is cooking, I mean, no offense to Kamani Vidal, he's great.
Yeah,
but he's not elite.
Yeah,
like
Derrick Henry did catch one pass, as Jed in chat corrected me. I couldn't remember. I thought there was one because I was thinking he had like 117 rushing yards or something like that, and I knew he scored like 13.
He also was in at the very end when he didn't need to be.
I know, and then he got 100 yards, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, they're done with him.
They're going to pull him out.
Yeah, and they didn't pull him out. Yeah.
Keaton Mitchell is just sitting like a div on the sideline, just watching everything.
Yeah, I know.
So, all right, you've got Justin Jefferson scoring twice as your next big bold call, and I love this one.
This one's fun, yeah. Maybe I should just say he scores once because that might be bold because he hasn't scored in forever. But
not as bold as twice.
Yeah, you got to say twice because then if it hits, then you're looking real good.
Yeah.
Indoor game against Detroit. They got to keep pace with Detroit. We love playing, Jared Goff indoors because he's way better at home and indoors. What if JJ McCarthy isn't trash? The JJ McCarthy stuff, I just think is so premature. Plays a good second half against Chicago. And then goes up against Atlanta and yes, misses some throws. There was that one to Jalen Naylor, I remember, down the sideline where he had Naylor and he just overthrew him. And
hey, do you think there might be too much hate for JJ McCarthy?
Yeah, like every other quarterback. Yeah. Yeah. The only one that I don't think there's enough of is with Cam Ward. I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. I'm just saying that for you.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, look, I just it's just premature to me. Like, we don't know. We've seen like 2 games from him. One of them, he was fine in the second half. The other one, he played Atlanta, by the way, which Atlanta now we know has been good at stopping the pass. I mean, they have by far from like a yards allowed perspective. I think they're like minus 50 yards over expected from quarterback passing. And we see that matchup isn't as easy as we thought it was back then. Justin Jefferson is seeing good target shares. There is touchdown. Like, he should have scored way more touchdowns than he's scored so far this year. This isn't how regression works. Regression isn't just like, hey, you're supposed to have 5 touchdowns. You've only scored 1. So this week you're going to score 4. That's an overcorrection, right? Regression is just saying you should be back at your baseline where you typically score. And I think Justin Jefferson can at least get there. And then, hey, what if variance is on his side? Or what if they are throwing a lot and then he gets a second touchdown in this game?
Okay, let's go to the look ahead waiver wire, and we got quite a few players on this one.
I don't know. I got a little.
I mean, I'm still scrolling, wanting to know like where the end is. It's there.
All right. I was kind of pretty open ended with the amount of waiver ads, so I'll go quick. Okay,
it's like a dump. It's like a waiver wire dump, kind of, where you're just putting everything in there, and then
now you can
basically.
Yeah. You guys can choose what you want.
Yeah.
I'll give you background on all of these. Next week we have Cleveland and New York, the Jets. So both of those defenses are streamers. I don't remember where it's being played. I'll look it up right now because trust me, I don't want to get it's in New York. I don't want to get this wrong after getting Cleveland wrong last time. It's in New York. Maybe I would go, you know what? No, we're going to go Cleveland over New York because just the Browns defense is better. So we'll go Cleveland and New York. And then if you can't get them, Carolina gets New Orleans. They're in Charlotte next week. New Orleans, Tyler Shuck, not super, enthusiastic about him starting for New Orleans at this point. So Carolina works as a streamer there.
Okay. And you got the Browns, Carolina, Jets. And then we go to quarterbacks with Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold gets Arizona in week 10. That's been a good matchup so far, a relatively decent matchup by adjusted points a lot. I would imagine it's going to have a decent enough total next week for Darnold.
Brian said it's in Croatia, JJ.
Yeah. I'm sure the Browns are probably playing in Croatia or Russia or some random spot this weekend, and I'm just getting it wrong.
Yeah, there is I feel like there is a game. No? I think every game is in town this week.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. No foreign soil
In
games
town.
this week. Yeah. In town.
That's in the States.
Yeah, in the States. Okay. Let's get to running backs. You've got Tootin, Manungai, we just talked about, Tyjae Spears, Rashard Smith, and Tank Bigsby.
Yeah, and Dylan Sampson.
And Dylan Sampson, Isaiah Davis, Blake Corum.
Yeah. At least I categorized by position.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go one by one here. Bayshaw Tootin. I think there is a non-zero chance that the Jags use more Tootin out of the bye. Talked about this on Perspectives a little bit. Travis Etienne hasn't been the most impressive. Tootin had that shoulder that he was dealing with like every single week, and then he would play, but he might not have been 100%. They're coming out of their bye. You know, we saw a similar trajectory last year. Not saying that Tootin is this guy, but we saw a similar trajectory with Bucky Irving last year. You can get more thoughts on the Perspectives episode because I talk about that a little bit more. Kyle Manungai, for obvious reasons, especially if DeAndre Swift is out. You should add him right now, honestly. Tyjae Spears. You have a couple of outs for Tyjae Spears. You have an injury out, obviously, if Tony Pollard were to get hurt. But Tony Pollard is the subject of some trade rumors right now.
Yeah.
And so if Tony Pollard got traded, Tyjae Spears would be like, I think Spears, because Spears is more electric, you know, like bigger playability than Tony Pollard at this point in their careers. And probably like they've been using him as the receiver and probably a little bit better of a receiver. And this is nothing against Tony Pollard, but Spears would probably be better than Pollard was without Spears, you know, like from a fantasy perspective. Not only that, but this is now later in the season where Cam Ward has more experience, and you got to hope that the Titans offense can move the ball a little bit better. So I think Tyjae Spears needs to be rostered in way more than 42% of leagues right now. Rashard Smith, they get a bye next week, so add him for obvious. What were you going to say about Spears?
Oh, I was just going to say the three teams I've seen with like trade rumors for running backs are the Titans with Pollard. The Browns yesterday, there was a report that they might shop a running back, and then the Jets with Brees.
Yeah, Jerome Ford has been kind of like the go-to for like the cheaper, like capable back that could go somewhere. Like Jerome Ford, if you want to add him even right now, just to see if anything happens, feel free. But Rashard Smith, we already talked about him. Keep an eye on him on waivers. Tank Bigsby, because Saquon Barkley had that injury. It sounds like it's not serious, but you never know. And then Dylan Sampson and Jerome Ford. So I have both of them on this list. Sampson because of the Quinshon Judkins. Sampson because of both the Quinshon Judkins injury, but also I guess Jerome Ford as well. But also because if Jerome Ford got traded, then Sampson could have some usability as like the pass catcher in that backfield and probably get some work from Judkins, and in PPR formats might be a little bit attractive. And then Jerome Ford, if he does get dealt to like New England, if this Ramondre injury is worse than expected, or Kansas City or something like that, then it could be a good spot for Jerome Ford. Isaiah Davis, he's been getting run as a receiver, but also Breece Hall could get. I don't think Breece Hall is going to go though.
Yeah.
I really think he's going to stay. And then Blake Corum. I have a lot of Blake Corum because during buys and stuff, people have been dropping him, but he has some like natural usability to begin with because they're splitting that backfield more than they did last year. And then in these like really insane positive game scripts, like we might see this weekend, Blake Corum could be usable in those instances. And there's obvious contingent upside. If Kyron Williams goes down, I love Jarquez Hunter, but they've been pretty clear with Terrence Ferguson, with Blake Corum last year. They're not going to rush these rookies onto the field. And Blake Corum looked pretty good this year. So Corum is someone that I think everyone should be stashing right now, and he's not rostered in nearly enough leagues when you consider that's one of the best situations for a running back period across the league. So I think Blake Corum needs to be rostered in more leagues.
All right. I was going to ask about two players, this guy being one of them. Actually, you could say three if you want to add Diami Brown to this list as well.
Yeah, do Parker I not have, I haven't updated it with the Travis Hunter news. Yeah. That's my bad. But yeah, we'll put Parker Washington on here and Diami Brown as well when we get to these wide receivers. I'll just get to them right now. Brandon Ayuk, 41% of leagues that he's rostered in right now. He could be back as soon as like week 11. So keep an eye on him. Jaden Reed and Christian Watson. Christian Watson already getting some run. Jaden Reed could be back from that collarbone sooner rather than later. Darnell Mooney. I get people there's one person in the Spotify shout out Arthur in the Spotify comments who ever since last week's game with Darnell Mooney, every single episode that I publish, he keeps saying, when are you going to talk about Darnell Mooney? Because I talked about adding Mooney on a 15 transactions episode, and then Mooney had his opportunity last week and he completely S the B.
Yeah, he
and
did.
It's like, guys, I talk about like 100 different players a week. I'm not just going to go like, hey, I missed out on this waiver wire ad with Darnell Mooney. I was wrong for it's a 1 week thing. I don't know what's going to happen rest of season, but yeah, I was wrong so far. I've been wrong so far with Darnell Mooney, but next week they get Indianapolis. And if the Atlanta offense kind of looks better this week, then you could see a scenario where like Mooney's more of a flex option next week. Jalen Knoll, not as much of a stash with Christian Kirk seemingly being healthier and Nico Collins being healthier. Luke McCaffrey is probably the Washington wideout that I would add. Chris Moore is probably going to get more run. I think Jalen Lane is a little bit more redundant to Debo, and obviously Debo's healthy. But Luke McCaffrey is someone to keep an eye on. Torrey Horton, I've added Horton in some leagues just because Cooper Kupp is a little bit banged up right now, and I think he's good. Jalen Coker, you can remove that about Leggett. You can probably just remove the Jalen Coker thing, but that's just a deep one. Leggett missed practice yesterday, so I added him on there. But those are the wide receivers.
He's back. He's not sick anymore.
Right.
I'm gonna ask you to just roast this look ahead waiver wire take, because we just got news that the Titans ruled out Jeffrey Simmons, which is good for Kamani Vidal. He's a big defensive guy.
Yeah.
But also Calvin Ridley is out, and they have a bye next week, so he could come back semi-healthy after the bye. That's all I'm saying.
Ridley's a target of trade discussion too right now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked if he moved. But yeah, Chimere DK, I didn't add him on here because I talked about him on 50 transactions. I guess I should have. I don't know why I didn't add Chimere DK. We're gonna replace Jalen Coker with Chimere DK because DK not like a terrible prospect. Like
yeah.
I'm gonna in the Zap model. I need to relook the reaching stuff that I added this last offseason with like get dinging players for being reaches and drafts and yada yada yada. But Chimere DK like had a good breakout score. He's 72 really breakout score. It was like fringe top 10 in this class. He's got good yak ability, plays special teams, but obviously has the speed. And he's like an easier outlet for Cam Ward that he hasn't had all year. Alec Iamaner, the problem with him is, he's a boomer bust kind of play. Like he runs a lot of deep routes. And if you're not connecting on those, which you're not going to very often with Cam Ward, it's going to be a lot more difficult to be fantasy relevant. Whereas DK is an easier outlet kind of player who can do a lot after the catch. I think DK could easily be the top wide receiver scorer in Tennessee rest of season.
Okay, we already talked about Theo Johnson. You have a rookie tight end here, and it's not Gunnar Helm. It's Mason Taylor.
Yeah, I'm not going to have Gunnar Helm in there.
Okay, yeah, I'm just letting people know it's not Gunnar Helm.
It's trending in the right direction for Gunnar Helm, but not yet. Yeah, look, Mason Taylor got dropped in a lot of leagues because the Jets are on bye, so make sure that you look to see if he's on the waiver wire and pick him up. And then Harold Fannin. Not only is Fannin just playing well, but David Njoku is also a possible trade candidate at the deadline.
Yeah,
I don't think that a lot of these candidates are going to actually be traded, but I mean, Fannin has standalone value without that, so he should still be rostered.
It's fun to talk about, at least. Like the what if scenarios. Like, what if we need to roster Isaiah Davis for 3 weeks, thinking that Breece Hall is going to be traded?
Yeah, or like, what if we meet Harold Fannin's mom again next year, and we get to talk more about Harold with her?
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to get to the quad box section, and I'm just going to let people know that you can't pick the Ravens Dolphins, JJ, because that was last night.
Okay, I'm taking it off then.
But
bad game anyway.
Letting people know that, yes, there is a Monday Night Football game, an island game, because some people complain these are just island games. Yes, there is an island games. That's the Cardinals versus the Cowboys in Monday Night Football. That for fantasy reasons, will be really exciting for people that have all these fancy assets. There's going to be a lot of people that are celebrating and
I'm gonna be sweating. We're all gonna be sweating games on Monday. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to go ahead and put that as my obvious game is Cards versus Cowboys.
Okay. And as you do that, I will do the Chiefs and Bills because that is also a very obvious game this week. Wow. Why are you doing the SpongeBob meme?
Just felt like it. Just felt like it.
Okay.
Could get crazy. All right. So we've got these other games going on. Man, I kind of want to choose 49ers and Giants. Seahawks and Commanders is a Sunday night football game. Not going to choose
49ers and Giants.
Yeah.
49ers and Giants.
What's wrong with that?
You're gonna pick Mac Jones.
Well, the other side's Jackson Dart. I got Tyrone Tracy. I got lots of Tyrone Tracy bags.
This is just what you specifically.
Juwan Jennings is heating up. You know, I kind of want to see that.
All right, go ahead. Pick 49ers.
No. I'm gonna go something different. I'm not gonna go Vikings, Lions. I'm gonna go Falcons at Patriots.
That's actually not a bad pick. So that's an interesting enough game. I'm going to finish it with Vikings Lions. I like the indoor game, and I like the JJ McCarthy storyline. I think that you could have gone Colts Steelers, Seahawks Commanders. I'd probably power rank the 49ers Giants like 6th out of the remaining games here.
Yeah. Okay. It's probably, I mean, you're probably right as far as it's got a lot of people, but
I want to battle a little bit, have a little disagreement.
I mean, if Brock Purdy was in, I would love it. But Matt
it'd be different if Brock Purdy were in. Yeah.
But Niners are 2.5-point favorite. It's got a decent enough team total.
I'm actually surprised at that over under.
The big thing is if you look here, we have more than a half a dozen games that have big game totals, or at least not terrible. So we could be in for a good, exciting week this week. I know some people are struggling with injuries and buys. We had people that were, just threatening to end their fantasy football season after today's injury news. Like, just hang in there. Crazy things could happen.
Crazy things will happen. Yeah. It's like, I also just saw a report that says Ben Johnson acknowledges that at some point the Bears may have to consider giving DeAndre Swift a week off.
Can you imagine if Roschon Johnson did not have a back issue?
I mean, look, like I said, if DeAndre Swift is out this week, it's Kyle Monungai week. I mean, he's in a really, really, really good spot. And I think he's a good enough running back to be able to handle a big workload and be fine, in those spots. I just don't think he's special. Lots
of late round running backs that are popping this week.
Yeah.
So just good for those 0 or alpha RB teams that you've got that are in contention. Okay, JJ, that does it for the show. Again, want to shout out to our sponsor, DraftKings, for the last time, probably in 2025. Hopefully they'll be back with us. But we love you, DraftKings. Appreciate everything you've done for us. And wanted to say, hey, go check out the Perspectives episode because that has had a lot of hands on it.
Yeah, please. At the very least, just listen.
Just click it so we get the download. Right.
Yeah.
We just want the download. JJ, you have any thoughts?
No, I'm excited for this weekend. I'm sad about Travis Hunter, but I think there's a lot of fun storylines that could come out of week 9. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, this is kind of like, it's not just do or die for TreVeyon Henderson. It's kind of do or die for some of these fantasy teams too. Like if you're 3-5, you don't want to be 3-6.
Yeah.
You want to be 4-5.
You got to win out, basically, then.
Yeah, you want to be trending in the right direction. And that's what this show is doing. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Leave some comments, some feedback, maybe some hearts and some likes on this show. Let us know what you think. Check out the mailbag episode. And we will be back next week, week 10 of the Late Round Fantasy Football Show without a sponsor. And that's
still really, right now sponsored by DraftKings.
But right now it's sponsored by DraftKings. But next week,
yeah.
Yeah, it won't be. It's that cadence we were talking about.
I know. Okay, here, redo it.
Okay.
Finish it up here. Here we go.
Okay. All right. So that will do it for week 9, the late round fantasy football show, sponsored by DraftKings.